We are very happy to have all of you here, and also especially our guests, all the way from Yemen, from Bangsa. And in the spirit of religious cooperation, in the spirit of peaceful coexistence, in the spirit of tak kenal maka tak cinta, we are presenting to you this special talk on Armageddon. Okay. Before we begin, let me just introduce the organizers. Yeah. Hawi Al-Khair, or better known as HAQ, is a non-profit dawah organization built on the core fundamentals of knowledge, love, and akhlaq. HAQ organizes a variety of programs such as Majlis Ilmu, seminars, and training sessions with local and foreign scholars. Yeah. And the second organizer is Universal. Universal is a collective of Islamic brands and artists that do events to nourish the soul and educate the mind by inviting traditional Islamic scholars, students of knowledge, and experts in fields of art, entrepreneurship, and activism in society. Alright, the concept for today is very simple. We will have the first speaker for today, Reverend Sivin Kid, from Bangsa Lutheran Church, yeah. A father of 4 and a husband of 1 wife. Thank you for making it simple. Yeah. And then we'll go to the next panel, and I'll introduce him later, right? But for now, let us listen to Reverend Sivin Kid. Welcome.
Thank you so much for this invitation, and the organizers, Universal and HAQ, for inviting me. With your permission, if you allow me, I think it's better for me to stand here so that you can see the slides a little bit better. I'll probably need a timekeeper here. I have about 30 minutes, just 30 minutes. You can give me the time that we do that. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me. I admire the work of Universal because I actually know them a little bit better. And today I'm happy to be introduced to the work of HAQ, and hopefully we can, in the coming days, get to know each other better. When I got the topic, I asked myself, what have I gotten myself into? This is a big topic, Armageddon. It's supposed to be talking about the last battle, and I'm here to share from a Christian perspective. Why? Because I'm not a best-selling author. I don't sell a lot of books that talk about the end times. I'm technically not an expert in this area. I actually invited my friend, a New Testament scholar, to come, but like anything in Malaysia, Chinese New Year, it's very hard to get them. So please treat me as a replacement speaker, but happy to share with you. I'd like to start maybe, the main aim for me is to sketch some ideas. This is such a big topic, but I can share maybe from a Christian perspective what Christians believe, what are some schools of thought, and what I think are the most important things about this topic when we talk about signs of the end times and lessons for us today. So I'll start with the heart. Once upon a time, when I was a little bit younger, in the 1980s, I was a teenager in school, and a friend of mine came to me. Now, even though I came from a Christian family, but I only got serious about my faith as a Christian, as a teenager. And this man, it was a young man, he was my senior, came to me and told me about Armageddon, the last battle. And then he flipped open the Bible, pointed to some scriptures, and then he mentioned the current events of what was going on in the world. This was the 1980s, remember? This was the time of the Gulf War. This was the time where you had these tensions going on, similar like today. And I was shocked by what he shared, and I was worried, I was scared. I was really afraid by what he shared, that this will be a last battle, and maybe Christians together with unbelievers will be engaged in this final battle together to see who is the winner. And he was very excited about it, talking about Armageddon. Now, on one hand, it was very interesting because it was my awakening to this idea. I'm not sure that he got everything right, but at least it sparked my interest. I just wanted to use this story to begin to point out what is the attitude that we have to these kind of topics. For Christians, and I guess for many people today, on one hand, you have the end-time phobia, a fear of the future. Let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about the future. Let's just focus on the present, and let's avoid this topic. It's not relevant. But there are others who have this end-time mania. They're fascinated with the future, like my friend. That time, in the 1980s, every day he's watching the news, trying to find what is that clue that would answer his question whether we are in the end times. So this is the extreme attitudes that people may have. Now today, I'm not really talking about whether we should have a balance or not, but I wonder, what attitude do we have today when it comes to these questions? Or is this the most important question? When exactly the last battle will happen? I guess from a Christian perspective, I will start with the notion of time. We talk about end time. And in Christian theology, usually we talk about two ways of talking about the study of the end times. Eschatology, that's the technical term for it. Is it personal? What happens after you die? A personal eschatology? A lot of people are interested in that question. Others, scholars, would focus on cosmic eschatology. What's going to happen to the whole world, the whole universe? Not just the universe soul, but the universe. So there are two clocks that we may approach this topic. Today, my focus is more on the cosmic side of things. But maybe there's another way of looking at it too. Could there be 4 watches? And this is based on 4 Greek words in the New Testament that deals with time. Chronos is about quantity, like we are starting at 3:30. It is a chronological time. Kairos, it's about quality time. It's about the opportunity, the opportune time. For example, it was the right time for me to show up today. Somehow I knew Justin years ago, or at least some months ago, and it was only recently that circumstances arose that it is a right time, a kairos moment for me to come, so that we can engage in this discussion and in this dialogue. Oops. Okay. Eschatos. This is the end. That means, if we look at time as a timeline, that there is a closure. But the word end is a little bit misleading, because end can mean not just beginning and the end. End can also mean, for example, a means to an end. What is the purpose? End as in the end is what is the purpose of this time for us? When will it end? What is the goal at the end? And of course, another word, another watch is eternity. Aeon. Ages. Everlasting. So these are ways in which Christians can enter this discussion. Do we start with the cosmic eschatology, or personal? Or are we interested in the chronos? Some people ask, is next year going to be the end of the world? Or are we talking about the kairos, eschatos, and aeon? These are nice fancy words. They are quite simple, where I put it down there for you. Now, to make things even more interesting, there is actually an actual method or different perspectives in which Christian theologians talk about the study of the end times. The study of the end times is eschatology. Logy as in the study. Biology, the study of life. Geography, the study of space. Eschatology is the study of the end times. And there are usually at least 4 positions that a Christian may take, or people today may choose. Position number 1 is some scholars would say in the past that Jesus, for example, and in the first century, he indeed believed that he was in the end time, correct. But these scholars, usually very critical and modernist scholars, would say, but he was wrong. He was mistaken. And that's why some of his disciples left, because they thought Jesus got it wrong. So this is one position. It is not my position, but it is one that some, you might hear them in popular culture in Western universities very often. And that is, of course, the temple in Jerusalem. And so this was an important symbol for Jesus to talk about the end time, which I will come back to it later. The next position is to the future, and you might know this a bit more. It is the futurist, dispensational, millennial. These are three big words, and I'll go backwards. Millennial basically talks about the 1,000 years. Dispensational talks about the different ages, the different eras, different dispensations. Futurist means that this group of scholars, they treat the material in the Bible, in the New Testament, or the words of Jesus as focused on the future. That means the end of time. And sometimes you will see it on the internet if you were to type end times. These pictures will come up. It's like they like to give you charts, how it will happen. There was a famous book some years ago called Left Behind, published by an American, Tim LaHaye, and you can find it sometimes in the Malaysian bookstores. It's fiction, but it's based on this idea of futurist, dispensationalist, millennial framework. And I won't go into the details, but very often they'll look into the last book of the Bible. There are 66 books. The last book is the book of Revelation, where it's highly symbolic, and they will interpret these symbols, and make the connection with a modern day event, just like my friend did when I was a teenager. So if it's a red horse, maybe it represents China. If it's a black horse, let's say found in the Bible, it may represent, it's actually symbolic, but they make that jump a little bit, in my opinion, too fast. But what is interesting about this position is that it makes us feel that our faith is connected to the world history, the developments that is going on. And that's why people like this. And it talks about the suffering, and it talks about only some will be saved, some will be caught up, some will be left behind, many will be condemned, so on and so forth. As you know, because of time, I'm going very quickly to let you know that these are some positions available, or you may hear when you are talking to Christians. Other scholars, so this is the third position, would say it's realized it's preterist, meaning that what this comic actually tells it, hey, relax, it all happened in AD 70. What happened in AD 70? Rome destroyed Jerusalem and burnt it all down. It was the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem, destruction of the city of Jerusalem by the Roman Empire. So these scholars would say that it has already happened. Whatever Jesus said, he was not mistaken, but it already happened. So you have one group says he was mistaken, one group says that it's all in the future, and you can probably calculate it. Another group says Jesus was right, but it has happened. So it's not so relevant for us today. We can learn some lessons from it, but it's not that relevant. And this is closest to where I stand, is the inaugurated historical. Now what does that mean? That means that when Jesus walked on this earth 2,000 years ago, he began, he inaugurated. We Christians believe he's the Messiah, therefore he started the reign of what we call the kingdom of God, the reign of God, where there should be peace, harmony, and justice on this planet Earth. And if you look at this chart, it basically talks about, this is time, this is the time of Jesus. The kingdom has come in Jesus, the Messiah. There's no Christian belief. He will come again, and I think there's something we share, that Jesus will come again, and this is where the kingdom will consummate. It is the final reign establishment of that kingdom. And you and I, according to this view, live in history in between times. So this position is not that interested in the chronological what time it is. It is in a sense, but it's more interested in what happens here. How do we prepare? How do we respond to the message of the Messiah, whom we believe is Jesus, the Son of God? That is our reference to him. And there's another term we use, is the Son of Man, which actually it means he's the Messiah, according to the Old Testament. We respond to him and we live in this time to prepare for that coming. So as you can see, it's not easy to do this in 30 minutes. Each position is 30 minutes in itself. But the important thing for this position is these words. The kingdom of God, the reign of God, has come in and through Jesus Christ. This is the claim that Christians make. Now, that is that time, in AD 30, but not yet, not fully. We experience some of it, but we will experience it 100% in the final day, the final judgment. Am I talking slow, fast? Is it just nice? If it's just nice, just smile at me. Oh, your smiles are so good. It doesn't feel like you're living in the end times. You know, I used to talk to someone, he says, don't talk to me about all these end times. I said, why? Because the moment I die, that's the end of my time. And there's some truth in that, isn't it? That we live, that's the personal eschatology. We need to watch how we live. But I move on, and I won't go into this, but Christians have different views of the 1,000 years, and I'll skip this, we can talk about it when it comes to questions. Now, I think it is important for us to go back to the sources. So what is the back to the sources for us as a Christian? Would be the Bible, and more important in this case would be the words of Jesus in the New Testament. Now, you will see here there are different passages of the Bible. There are 4 Gospels in the Bible. So Mark chapter 13 has a summary of what we call the apocalyptic, the unveiling, the revelation of the end time. Jesus spoke about this here. I will spend more time in the Matthew chapter 24, 25, 2 chapters. I will read some of the excerpts for you to hear what Jesus says in these passages. And Apostle Paul, that is the 13th apostle of Jesus, the one some people call the founder of Christianity. I'm not sure that's a good title. I think Jesus is still, from our perspective, is the beginning of Christianity. Paul would be an interpreter of Christianity, and especially a messenger to the Gentiles, people like me, who are non-Jews. And then you have John chapter 14. These are Jesus' words. And very important, Revelation, the very symbolic book 21 to 22, where you have a vision. Yeah, it is a vision of the future, the present. You're not too sure because you have to read the book and try to understand where the author is getting at. So let me start here. Matthew chapter 24, verses 1. And I will just start there, okay? So I actually took a picture for you to see what is in the Bible. Jesus left the temple. What temple is this? Remember I showed you the picture? The Jerusalem temple. It was rebuilt. It was the second temple built by King Herod after the Jews returned from exile. And what did he say? When he was walking away, when his disciples came up to him and called his attention to the buildings. Look at all this. It's like Malaysia's Twin Towers. I mean, the disciples didn't say that, but that was the feeling that they had. To call his attention to these buildings. And what did Jesus say? Did you see all these things? Did you see all these things? He asked. Truly, and this is Jesus' words, I tell you, not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down. So Jesus is talking to his disciples that you glory and you give so much attention to this building, the grand display of what you think represents religion. But this will all collapse. And historians tell us that this happened in AD 70. It happened, of course, it happened again about 130 onwards. And then I read on because there's too much passages. I'll just read through a few and give one or two comments on each. As Jesus was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately. Right? If you are one of them, you would ask, "Tell us," they said, "when will this happen?" Chronos, isn't it? When will this happen? And what will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? That was the question. That's why we are here. Same question. And what did Jesus answer? Watch out that no one deceives you. That's what Jesus said. For many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah, and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. These are the reply of Jesus. Such thing must happen, but the end is still to come. Nations will rise against nation, and the kingdom against kingdoms. There will be famines, earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pangs. In other words, your focus is on the building. But let me tell you, be careful. You think you're asking about the end of time. But let me tell you that don't be deceived, because that opens you up for deception. But even though that may be the case, you still should look at the signs. And what are the signs? The things I mentioned just now. Verse 9, then you'll be handed over to be persecuted and put to death, and you'll be hated by all nations because of me. At that time many will turn away from faith and betray and hate each other, and many false prophets will appear and deceive many people. Because of the increased wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. And this is gospel, this good news of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Now this good news, what is it about? It's about the reign of God. It's about the message of Jesus of freedom. Freedom for the oppressed. Sight for those who have blind eyes. He had a sermon he actually shared before. Prisoners will be set free. The lame will walk. You know, these are symbolic and some are real in a way that tries to give a picture of what this kingdom or this reign is all about. But he's also very careful. And then after he talked about quite a few things, he said, now learn this lesson from the fig tree. He starts like a teacher, becomes symbolic. As soon as the twigs get tender and leaves come out, you know the summer is near. Even so, when you see all these things, you know that it is near, right at the door. The way he talks is very urgent. Truly I tell you, this generation will certainly not pass away until all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. And then he continues, but about the day or hour, no one knows. Not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. So he warns against speculation. Jesus here. He warns against speculation, but he does encourage us to be alert, to watch for the signs. But maybe the signs are not what you and I expect. We may hope that the signs will be A, B, C, D, but Jesus here turns it around and says, hey, you know it might be near, but what's more important is my words, because my words won't pass away. These signs will. So there's this side of things that is important to get back to something more central. And what did he do after that? He actually told two parables. One parable was about 10 virgins getting ready. They need to be ready and alert for the bridegroom to come. Alright, so I won't have time to go into that, but basically that's one parable. The other parable, interestingly, it's about builders. Again, it's about builders being ready. But what is interesting for me is the vision at the end. After he told the vision, the parables, he shared with them a picture. And this is what it says. When the Son of Man, this is referring to the Messiah, comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All nations will be gathered before him, And he will separate the people one from another as shepherds separate the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. So what is he doing here? He is saying there is a final judgment, there is a final accounting, and there will be a separation. And he uses the picture of sheep and goats. I'm not sure whether in Malaysia we will use separate durian and rambutan. We might use a different picture. But Jesus is from the Middle East, and some of you have visited the Middle East, surely, and you will kind of have a picture of what that is. And then he talks about this, and I need to refer to it again, just to give you the picture. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world." And this is the words that he says, Jesus' words that will not pass away. "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." And then he looked to and then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" Then the king, which represents the Son of Man, and Christians believe this is Jesus speaking, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did it for me." And that's what Jesus said in this vision. And then, after talking to the righteous, he turned to those whom he judges, and he basically judged them because they didn't do the things that the righteous did. And they answered too, "Hey, we didn't know." And then what was his reply? That was my summary there. Verse 44, they answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry, thirsty," and so on. And then verse 45 he says, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did not do for me, one of the least of these, you did not do for me." And then they will go away in eternal punishment, but the righteous to eternal life. Now this is a very interesting ending to this discussion of the end times. 25 minutes, I still have 5 minutes to go. Why is it interesting? Because when we started, I talked about battles, Armageddon. I've actually been to Megiddo. That is the place where we get the word Armageddon. I was at the Holy Land the last few months ago, in December, and I've actually been to Megiddo. This is the place where it is prophesied where the final battle will happen. We had a Palestinian guy, actually, Palestinian Christian. And there were some Christians in my group that were more of the futurist types. So they asked him, is the final battle going to be here? And it's very interesting. This is a Palestinian who faces violence, who faces a lot of oppression in Israel, even if he's a Christian. He said, "I want to be very careful about speculating whether this is the place. As far as I'm concerned," he interprets it more symbolically, that there is a constant fight and battle of good and evil in my own heart, he said, also in this world, and we need to focus on fighting evil together rather than speculating where it is exactly going to happen. So that was very interesting. The Malaysian was more interested in, is this the place? But the one who lives in the Holy Land is more interested in how we live in this situation. And that is why I briefly went back to the sources. The Christian sources are the words of Jesus. For us, Jesus is the climax, is the center of our understanding, our values, our example, and our vision of the world. And for some, of course, Christians, they may be preoccupied with thinking about battles, about fights. And indeed, we are all in a struggle with ourselves, with our sin, with death, and even the devil. But Jesus shifts the attention in this passage that I've read. When I was hungry, did you give me something to eat? When I was thirsty, did you give me something to drink? When I was in prison, did you come and visit me? When I was sick. So he put himself in the position of those who are the weakest in the world. And usually they are represented by these characteristics I mentioned. So, in closing, this is what I'd like to say. We live in Kuala Lumpur, and I'd like to, of course, welcome our guests to Kuala Lumpur as well. Kuala Lumpur is famous for modernization. We are proud of our twin towers. Every time I go overseas, the first picture I show to people when I'm in Germany or Europe or Norway is our glorious twin towers, the progress that we have made. Right? But at the same time, you and I know that all these material, technological progress may also lead to an apathy towards spiritual things, towards values, towards things that we hold dearly. And some may be very optimistic about this as well. So you could go both ways, very pessimistic, optimistic, and especially when religion or God is excluded from our discussion. Now, of course, there's a danger of having corrupted religion in the discussion, but that's another topic. Others, they're excited about battles. They're excited about what is going to happen, or we are horrified by what's going on in the Middle East, in different parts of the world, in Africa. In fact, I was horrified to see Christian militia in some African countries. We are maybe troubled by what's happening in the US in terms of the presidential build-up. Some of us are worried about Malaysia. Some of us are worried about Bangsa. So I told my friend, I said, I'm not a pessimist or an optimist. I want to learn to be a hope-timist. You see, for Christians, the focus of eschatology is not so much of what is the end battle. It is really about hope. And the picture in the book of Revelation actually is about the new heavens and new earth. There will be a time, there will be no more tears, no more suffering, where God rules over all, truly and surely. And I should, okay, if I can just one more minute to close. Second. I started with a story of myself as a teenager. That was in 1980s. Just recently I had dinner with my friend, Christian, and he started talking about his mother. She's kind of older now, and she's always on the internet. So nowadays it's interesting, some of our grandmothers and mothers are on the internet. But he says, you know, Sivin, I'm really worried for my mother because she's into this Armageddon, end time, fascinated with all these things. Even to the point that she's not eating properly. Even to the point she's not relating to me as a son properly in the house. She's always worried about whether there are some people out to attack us. She's worried about all these things. And then he said to me, Sivin, I'm so worried. Why? Because I want my mother to be religious. I want her to be a God-fearer. But being a God-fearer shouldn't make her a bad human being. It should make her a better human being. Someone who is able to love. I came across a nice quote, posted by a Muslim actually, on my Facebook, that said this: if your theology, if your understanding of God makes you unable to love another person, you need to question your beliefs, your theology. That was a great challenge. If my eschatology makes me hate another person who's different from me, I need to question that eschatology. I think that's a great challenge. Therefore, it is an invitation, not Armageddon for me. I end with an invitation with this. We discern the end of times, but we need to decide what to do with our lives. What we need is wisdom, but can I close with a blessing? Because it is really about something like this. Please be careful and open as you listen to this, because it's for me too. May God bless you and me with discomfort. Discomfort at easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you and I may live deep within our hearts. May God bless us with anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that we may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless us with tears to shed for those who suffer pain, rejection, hunger, and war, so that we may reach out our hands to comfort them and turn their pain to joy. And may God bless us with enough foolishness to believe that we can make a difference in this world, so that we can do what others claim cannot be done, to bring justice and kindness to all our children and the poor. This is what I believe Jesus meant by his message and his words, and I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Sivin. Very illustrious presentation, better than any Hollywood movie, I must say. Okay, our next speaker is none other than Habib Kadzim Assaqaff. He was born in Tarim, Hadramaut in 1960 and has a direct lineage to the Prophet. A highly respected scholar, he is considered as an expert in many areas of Islamic sacred sciences, including jurisprudence, prophetic biography, theology, and so on. He is not alone today. He is accompanied by our translator, which is none other than Ustaz Imran. He has roots in Malaysia, but is now based in Singapore. Started his early Islamic education at a very early age and has attended many sessions with great scholars in the Middle East. He is now teaching in Singapore. Let us welcome Habib for the next session. Thank you very much.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أحمد سبحانه وتعالى أولا وأصلي وسلم على جميع أنبياء الله سيدنا محمد وعيسى وموسى وجميع أنبياء الله المحبوبين عند الله جل في علاه.
We praise God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we give our peace and blessings to all our prophets, to our prophet Jesus, to Moses, and every single prophet, and especially our prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
وعلى جميع أتباعهم إلى قيام الساعة.
And for everyone who follows them until the end of time.
وسأحاول أن أركز هذا الموضوع في نقاط محددة وفي نقاط معينة لضيق الوقت، ولأن الموضوع طويل جدا أيضا.
And we try to concentrate on few points the topic that we are going to discuss, because this topic might take long time to complete the whole discussion.
وسأبدأ أيضا من حيث انتهى الأخ في ذكر سيدنا عيسى حتى يكون الكلام مترابطا ومتسلسلا.
And I will also try to continue on the discussions on Jesus, which has mentioned by our brother, so that the discussion can be at the same level and can continue.
وأقدم مقدمة أولا أنه لم يختلف على شخصية من الشخصيات ونبي من الأنبياء كاختلاف الناس في حق سيدنا عيسى عليه السلام. لم يختلف في شخصية أحد اختلاف في شخصية سيدنا عيسى عليه السلام. يعني الناس مختلفون في شخصية سيدنا عيسى، وبعضهم يقول أنه إله وبعضهم يقول أنه
طيب.
أقاويل كثيرة.
Like there is no differences which is more than the Jesus, because there are many people differs on the personality of Jesus. Some of them says that he is God, some of them say that he is a man, and whatever it is.
ومن أسباب الاختلاف في هذا أن سيدنا عيسى وجد في هذا العالم وولد في هذه الأرض بطريقة غير معروف، بطريقة غير تقليدية كما يتعارف بها البشر، ولد من غير أب.
And the reason for these differences is because that Jesus was born to the earth not like any other people, because he was born with a mother without a father.
وهذه الولادة في حق سيدنا عيسى هي خارج أنواع كيفيات وجود البشر في هذه الحياة.
And the way that Jesus was born is not normal way where children were born on earth.
فنحن المسلمين مثلا نعتقد أن الإنسان ممكن يوجد في هذه الحياة بأربع كيفيات فقط. الأولى وهي الأكثر والأشهر والمتداولة من أب وأم، من زوج وزوجة، فينتج إنسان آخر وينتج مولود آخر.
and we believe that human can come out on the face of earth in four ways. One of the ways is that which most people share the similarity that they come from the father and mother.
الطريقة الثانية ممكن أن يوجد الإنسان من غير أب ومن غير أم، وهذه إطلاق قدرة الله تعالى التي ليست لها حدود، فأوجد بني آدم من غير أب ومن غير أم.
And the second way is that a person would exist without without father and mother, and this is purely by the ability and strength of God, just like how He has created our father Adam and Hawa.
الصورة الثالثة وجود إنسان من ذكر من غير أنثى، من رجل من غير امرأة، مثل وجود أمنا حواء من أبينا آدم عليه السلام.
And the third way is like how people are created not from ladies but only from men, just like how Eve was created from our father Adam.
وجود سيدنا عيسى من أم من غير أب، هذا الذي جعل الناس لا يعرفون حقيقة هذا النبي العظيم عند الله سبحانه وتعالى. وأيضا أمه المرأة العظيمة فقد حصل لها شيء لم يحصل لأي امرأة في التاريخ، لم تنقل لنا الكتب أن امرأة ولدت من غير أب من غير زوج، فهذا حصل لهذه المرأة العظيمة، لذلك ربنا خلد اسمها في القرآن خاصة، لا توجد امرأة مذكور باسمها في القرآن سوى سيدتنا مريم.
As how we know, and Jesus is how He was born without a father. This is the fourth way. And at the same time we can know that Jesus was born by His mother Mary without a father, and she was pregnant without a husband. And as we know in the Quran, God did not mention anyone's name any lady's name in the Quran other than Mary.
سيدتنا مريم إذن شخصية متميزة من بين نساء العالمين، وما حصل لها لن يحصل لأي امرأة أخرى إلى قيام القيامة التي كنا نؤمن بها وانتهاء الحياة من هذا العالم ومن هذا الكوكب.
And Virgin Mary is a really different, special lady, as how God has mentioned in the Quran, which no lady shares this attribute like what she has.
ولن نطيل بذكر ولادة سيدنا عيسى الغريبة هذه، فهي مذكورة في كتبها وفي القرآن، كذلك ربنا خلد هذه الواقعة من البداية إلى النهاية.
And I'm not going to discuss more about the birth of Jesus in the Quran, because these discussions is mentioned in the Quran on how He was born and so on.
ولكن علاقة سيدنا عيسى بآخر الزمان، نحن نعتقد أن سيدنا عيسى سيعود إلى هذه الأرض كما ذكر الأخ في كلامه، سيعود إلى هذا العالم وسيلتقي بالناس الطيبين الذين كانوا يحبون الخير للخلق والعدالة والأمان.
But what we're going to discuss is that Jesus will come back to the earth, and as how being mentioned by our brother, He will come back to the earth and He will bring love, peace, security to everyone, as how it's being mentioned by our brother.
وهو الآن موجود في السماء كما نعتقد نحن بالمسلمين، وحتى بعض النصارى يعتقد أنه موجود في السماء.
And Jesus is there in the heavens, as what we believe. The same goes to some of the beliefs of the Christians, that Jesus is in the heavens.
لكن بعض النصارى يعتقد أنه صلب ثم رفع إلى السماء، والبعض الآخر يعتقد أنه رفع من غير صلب، كمثلنا نحن المسلمين نعتقد أنه رفع إلى السماء من غير أن يصلب وسيعود مرة أخرى.
Some of the Christians believe that Jesus wasn't crucified and then He was brought up to the heavens. But some of the Christians believe that He was crucified, He was killed, and then He was brought to the heavens. We Muslims, we believe that Jesus was not crucified, He was just elevated to the heavens, and then He will come back to the earth to bring justice.
وهذا يعني عروج سيدنا عيسى إلى السماء وعودته مرة أخرى شيء غريب بحد ذاته، ولكنه ليس غريبا في حق الأنبياء الذين لهم خصائص ومميزات وقدرات فوق قدرات البشر العاديين.
For Jesus to go to ascend to the heavens, it is of course it is something which is strange and amazing for people like us. But it is not something strange or amazing for the prophets, because prophets, such things, strange things happens to them.
وحتى نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم عرج إلى السماء وجلس فترة قصيرة وعاد مرة أخرى إلى الأرض وهو حي. كذلك سيدنا عيسى عرج إلى السماء وهو حي، ولكن الفترة التي سيجلسها سيدنا عيسى فترة طويلة وسيعود مرة أخرى إلى الأرض، وسيؤمنون به كثير من الناس عندما يلتقون مباشرة مع سيدنا عيسى يكلمهم ويكلمونه ويخاطبهم ويخاطبونه.
And as how we know, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he also had an ascension to the heavens, but he stayed a short time compared to what Jesus is staying in the heavens, and he came back to the earth. The same goes to Jesus. he did an ascension to the heavens, and then he will come back to the earth, except that the time that he stays in the heavens is very long. And then when Jesus comes down, descend to the earth, we will believe in Jesus. We can see many people believe in Jesus because they experience Jesus personally, and they know that he is the one who will bring justice to the earth.
بالنسبة لنا نحن المسلمون ليس عندنا إشكال في هذا، ولكن الذي سيستفيد كثير جدا من رجوع سيدنا عيسى مرة أخرى إلى الأرض هم أهل الكتاب الغرب، في بريطانيا وألمانيا وفرنسا وأمريكا وربما في الشرق والصين وغير ذلك، لمن يتأثر ولمن يؤمن بالإنجيل. فسيعرف عندما سيدنا عيسى يخاطبهم ويبين لهم الأخطاء والمشكلات التي وقعت في الأرض وأخطاءات الناس، كيف الناس فهموا أمور خطأ في حق سيدنا عيسى وفي حق الواقع الذي يعيشونه.
And for us, we don't have the slightest doubt on the descension of Jesus to the earth, and we fully believe about the descension of Jesus, and we know that he is the prophet of God. And then the one who will also benefit most from the descension of Jesus is the people of the books, which we refer to the Christians and the Jews, because they will experience themselves with Jesus, and then Jesus will explain to them about the wrongdoings or the mistakes which has happened on the face of earth, the oppression, and he will call them to the truth.
ومن الأشياء التي سيبينها سيدنا عيسى للناس أخطاهم حول كيفية حمل أمه به، وأنها حملته بطريقة خارقة، ليس بطريقة معاشرة أي رجل ولا أي شخص آخر، إنما حملته بأمر إلهي كوجود سيدنا آدم.
And one of the mistakes that will be corrected by Jesus is that the belief of some people that they think that Jesus is that Mary was impregnated by a guy, when we don't believe like that. We believe that Mary, she was a virgin, and then this God has put a soul in the womb of Mary, and that's when Jesus was born by Mary.
كثير من العقول قد تستصعب أو لا تقدر أن تتصور كيف يوجد مولود من غير أب، كيف يوجد من غير زوج، ولكن في حق اطلاق القدرة الإلهية شيء يسير. وأيضا لو كانت مسألة التكاثر شيء تلقائي لكان كل رجل يعاشر امرأة، ينجبون كثير يتزوج مع زوجه ولا يتم بأولاد، لأن الأمور خاضعة لإرادة وليس عملية تلقائية.
And as we can know that because the real reason how Jesus was born is because of the ability of God, the strength of God. It is not because of mixing between men and women. As we can see, many people, they get married, and men and women, when they mix, the ladies don't get pregnant. It is not just simply because of the mixing, then people will get pregnant. As how we can see our father Adam, he was not born from a father or from a mother. He was created by the ability of God. At the same time, God has created Jesus in the womb of Mary, just like in a different way. And when a woman is impregnated, it is not because of the actions of human, but it is connected to the will and ability of God.
ولكن الأمر الذي ينبغي أن يتنبه له من يؤمن بعودة سيدنا عيسى من السماء مرة أخرى من غير المسلمين أنها ستوجد شخصية أخرى تنتحل صفة سيدنا عيسى وتدعي أنها هي سيدنا عيسى.
But the most important one we want to discuss is the similarity that we have on believing the coming back of Jesus. Because we believe that there will be another figure who will try to claim that he was the Jesus.
هذه الشخصية ستظهر إلى الأرض قبل سيدنا عيسى.
This person, he will come on the earth before the descension of Jesus.
وهي شخصية المسيح الدجال.
And which is called the Antichrist or the false Messiah.
هذه شخصية شريرة تقود الحروب في الأرض، تؤجج الظلم في الأرض، تؤجج الأمراض في الأرض. ليست شخصية خيرية كشخصية سيدنا عيسى، ولكنها تنتحل صفة سيدنا عيسى حتى تستقطب الناس لاتباعها وتنفيذ مخططاتها.
This is a very bad figure. the false Messiah, the Antichrist, he's a very bad figure because he will cause pain, he will cause sicknesses, he will cause wars between people. But he used the name of Jesus because he wants to bring people to believe in him.
فلذلك ينبغي أن ننتبه إلى الشخصية الحقيقية لنزول سيدنا عيسى، لأنه كثير حتى من النصارى يعتقدون نزول سيدنا عيسى أيضا، طوائف كثيرة يعني.
That is why it is very important for us to have the right belief on the descension of Jesus, because even many of the Christians, they believe that Jesus will come down, and we have to be careful on choosing which one of them is the real Jesus.
والاختلافات هذه يعني ليست خطيرة، الأهم لأن اختلافات فكرية. الأخطر من هذا اختلافات القلوب، عندما تتنافر القلوب ويكره الناس بعضهم بعضا، هذا مؤشر خطر. يعني الناس تختلف فكريا، ولكن الأخطر عندما يختلفون قلبيا، يتكارهون. ممكن إنسان يختلف، المسلمين يختلفون، النصارى يختلفون.
It is not important when we want to speak about this thing. What concerns us is not the differences of ideas or differences of beliefs, but the most important is the differences of the hatred that people have amongst each other. It is very important that we do not hate each other, even though we will have differences of ideas or understanding of beliefs.
هذه الشخصية التي تنتحل سيدنا عيسى ستمر بثلاث أطوار.
This figure who will take as the figure of Jesus, he will go into 3 steps.
وهي شخصية تملك تلاعب ذهني كبير جدا.
And he is a figure which is very intelligent in playing with people's minds.
وقدرة على تغيير الأفكار بصورة خارقة جدا.
And he is able to change the understanding of people in some mysterious way.
المرحلة الأولى تمر بها إقناع الناس بأنها ذات إصلاح، تصلح الناس، تنشر الخير، وباطن هذا الشر.
And the first step that he will go is he will try to explain people that he is the one who will do goodness to people. He wants to spread goodness, but in reality there's a lot of badness in it.
ثم ستأتي إلى مرحلة أخرى إقناع الناس أنها نبي، ولأجل تجيش الناس والدخول معها في ماذا؟ في مشروعهم القتالي الحربي، لأجل الناس تحارب، تقاتل بعضها بعضا، لا لأجل السلام، لا جمع الناس لأجل السلام، جمع الناس لأجل الإبادة والقتل والحرب.
The second step that he will do is that he will get people, he will claim himself to be a prophet. And then what is his purpose for doing such thing? Because he wants to get people to be amongst his soldiers so that he can fight, he can create war with people, not because he wants to call people to worship or to spread peace on the face of earth.
وقد تكون الحرب القادمة حرب هرمجدون التي يجيش العالم إليها ويهيأ إليها، هذه الأيادي الأخذية تمهد الآن لوقوعها.
And it is possible that
هرمجدون هذه معركة كبيرة. أتباع الدجال هؤلاء الأصابع الخفية هم يهيئون لهذه المعركة الكبيرة. قد يكون هذا لا ما حصل.
It is possible that they have already started their work to prepare for the Armageddon war, which will create a big fight between the good and bad people.
فهذا العالم الجميل الملآن بالغابات والسفوح الخضراء والأشجار والأنهار يتأسف عندما يرمى بالقنابل النووية والأسلحة الذرية. يفسد هذا العالم الجميل بأي حجة بأي عقل.
And this beautiful world, which is beautified with the jungles, with rivers and everything which is beautiful on the face of earth, they will feel very sorry, or they will be regret to be destroyed by the atomic bombs or by wars which is created by people. What sin have they done up to an extent that they deserve to be destroyed?
في اعتقادي أن من يريد تحويل المزارع الخضراء والغابات إلى قرات ملتهبة من النار، والأنهار الجميلة والبحار والشواطئ إلى سواحل ملتهبة بالنار، هذه عقلية شريرة تحت أي مبرر. العالم يحب الأمان، والأنبياء وسيدنا عيسى يحب السلام. ولكن من يريد أن ينتحل صفة سيدنا عيسى يريد هذا العالم الآن بالحروب والدمار.
And in my belief, this world which is beautified with jungles, trees and rivers, to jungles of fire, or to rivers which is filled with fire, this is something which is very bad. But in the
ولكن ها؟
يعني شواطئ البحار الأنهار to my belief, these kind of people who wants to change all this beautiful world to something which is bad, this is someone which is very, very bad.
ولكن سيدنا عيسى عندما سينزل آخر الزمان لا بد أن يعاقب هذه الشخصية التي انتحلت صفته والتي دافعت الناس إلى الحروب وإلى المظالم.
So Jesus, when he comes down on the face of earth, he will definitely stop all these kind of oppressions. Those, especially the one who try to be claimed as a prophet, claim himself to be Jesus, and he is the one who was creating destruction. So Jesus will stop him from doing such things.
هذه الشخصية الشريرة ستدعي الصلاح أولا حتى تخدع الناس، ثم ستدعي النبوة ثانيا، ثم ستدعي الربوبية الألوهية كما ادعاها فرعون أنه إله.
This bad figure, in the first place, he will claim himself to call people to goodness, so that he is able to create love in people. And then, second thing, he will claim himself to be a prophet, so that he can get a big number of soldiers, and then he will go to the third step, which he will claim himself to be the God, and that is when he will start to create big destruction on the face of earth, just like how Pharaoh has done.
وهذه الشخصية التي تبث الشرور في العالم كله للنساء وللأطفال وللرجال، هذه الشخصية سيقضي عليها سيدنا عيسى بن مريم هو بنفسه وبيده الشريفة.
And he, the one who will create a lot of destruction to ladies and to children, which we refer to the Antichrist, Jesus himself will take responsibility to end all this suffering with his own honored hand.
وعندما تموت هذه الشخصية الشريرة سيتبعها كل الشريرين في الأرض الذين لا يرحمون طفلا صغيرا ولا يتفاعلون مع مريض ولا مع جائع ولا مع مسجون ولا يتألمون الإنسان. قلوبهم كقلوب الشياطين، لا توجد قلوب تحمل الرحمة والهداية والسعادة للناس.
And when this bad figure is gone, all those people who has these attributes, an example, he doesn't have mercy for the children, doesn't have mercy for the weak people, doesn't have, and is not compassionate to people, they will be ended together with this bad figure, which is called
وبعد زوال هؤلاء الأشرار كما سمعتم في الكلمة ستنعم الأرض بالأمان والإطمئنان والعدالة.
And when this bad figure is ended, then as how you have heard our brother has mentioned, peace and security will return to the conflict.
وسينعمون الناس بالسلام الكامل إلى القيامة. أو إلى قرب القيامة.
And people will live in peace and security until the near time of the end of time.
وستذهب العداوة ليس من قلوب الآدميين الذين هم مرض المخلوقات حتى من قلوب الحيوانات.
And enmity will be removed not only from people, it will also be removed from animals.
فترعى الأغنام مع الذئب ولا يضرها الذئب.
A shepherd can have his sheep together with a wolf, and the wolf will not oppress the sheep.
وترعى الغزلان مع الأسود فلا تفترسها الأسود.
We can see that deers will be together with the lions, and the lions won't attack the deers.
ويلعب الأطفال الصغار بالحيات والعقارب فلا تضرهم الحيات. يأخذ الطفل الصغير الحية فيضعها في فمه ولا تضره، لأن العداوة قد ارتفعت من الإنسان أولا الأصل ثم من الحيوانات.
Children will play together with snakes and scorpions, and enmity will be removed from all of them, up to an extent that you can see children, they will bite snakes and snakes won't harm them.
وسينعم الناس بمقابلة النبي عيسى والجلوس مع هذه الشخصية النورانية المحبوبة.
And people, all of them will enjoy by being with the Jesus, a person who is being beloved and respected.
وسيحل مشكلات الأرض.
He will give a complete solution on all the problems on the face of the earth.
ولكن سيعاديه أقوام كما عادوه أول ما ظهر أقوام وآذوا سيدنا عيسى حتى أرادوا صلبه، كذلك سيعاديه في آخر الزمان ولكنه سينتصر عليهم.
At the same time, there will be a group of people who will show great enmity towards Jesus, just as how a group of people before has shown great enmity against him. There will come a group of people later when Jesus has come, they will show great enmity towards Jesus.
وسيقتنع ناس كثير بسيدنا عيسى بن مريم.
And there will be a lot of people who will be satisfied with Jesus.
كل الذين يقرؤون العهد القديم والعهد الجديد والإنجيل وغير ذلك عندما يرون الشخصية نفسها سيدنا عيسى سيحلهم المشكلات والاختلافات بين الكتب وبين الناس.
Everyone who believes in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, in the religions, when they see Jesus, they know that He is the one who will solve all the problems between the religions, and also He will end sufferings.
وقد قال القرآن الكريم هكذا أخبرنا ربنا عز وجل.
And this is what we can see how Allah has mentioned to us in the Quran.
وإن من أهل الكتاب إلا ليؤمنن به قبل موته قبل أن يموت ثم سيموت سيدنا عيسى.
There's not a single from the people of the books which we refer to the Christians and the Jews, except that they will indeed believe in the coming of, except they will believe in Jesus before they die.
هذا اعتقادنا نحن المسلمين أنه نبي من الأنبياء وليس إله من الله الواحد فقط.
And our belief on Jesus is that He is one of the prophets and He is not the Lord.
الخالق الواحد الله.
The Lord, the God is Allah, the one who creates.
كل شيء.
He is the one who created every single thing.
من الذرات إلى المجرات.
From the atoms to the greatest to the cosmics.
ومن الأسماك في البحر إلى الأفلاك في الفضاء.
From the fishes in the sea to the stars in the universe.
ولم تدعي قوة على مدى التاريخ أنها تقدر أن تخلق ذبابا أو تخلق حية أو تخلق إنسانا.
And there has not been anyone who has dared to claim himself that he has created the fly or he has created
ذبابا أو حية أو
or snakes or anything, insects or anything from the face of earth except for him.
وإنما الناس يقدرون أن يصنعوا أشياء من المخلوقات الإلهية من الحديد يصنعوا حاملات طائرات صواريخ الفضاء من الأشياء التي أوجدها الله.
People are able to invent something from the face of earth which is created by God. They are able to use from the richness of earth to create, to invent something new.
فنزول سيدنا عيسى بن مريم عندنا المسلمين علامة من علامات القيامة وأن القيامة قربت.
And when Jesus comes to the face of earth, that is one of the signs of the end of times, and the end time indeed has come when Jesus has descended.
نحن ننتظر تغييرات كونية علامة على نزول سيدنا عيسى.
We are only waiting for the major signs before Jesus comes down.
وعلامات أرضية.
And the signs which we can see on the face of earth.
ننتظر مثلا أنها سيحصل حادثة كبيرة جدا في العراق.
Just like how we are waiting that there will be a great thing will happen in Iraq.
وأن نهر الفرات هذا سينحسر معه.
One of the signs is that the river which is called Euphrates, it will dry up.
وسيظهر جبل من ذهب.
And it will come out from Euphrates a mountain of gold.
وسيجن أهل الجنون من رؤية الجبل من الذهب هذا.
And
جنون.
and people will get crazy by looking at the mountain of gold that comes out from Euphrates.
وسيذهب الناس يتقاتلون لأجل أخذ هذا الجبل لأن الأمر فوضى من غير ترتيب من غير حكومات كل يريد أن يأخذ هذا الجبل.
And everyone will fight to get these mountain of golds because there's no arrangements, there's no proper system in getting this big amount of wealth.
ولكن نبينا الرحيم سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم حذرنا أي جيل أي طائفة يظهر فيكم هذا الجبل لا تذهبوا إلى أرض العراق لتأخذوا من هذا الجبل ابعدوا عنه. الناس سيقتتلون عليه ولن يستفيدوا شيئا لن يأخذوا شيئا.
But our prophet who has much compassionate, he has told us that if there will be a mountain of gold that will come up from Euphrates, then you should not go to that place because people will fight and kill each other to get that wealth.
الآن التقارير القادمة من العراق تقول أن نهر الفرات ينحسر هذا انحسارا كبيرا جدا.
What we can know now, they have said that the river of Euphrates, it has decreased a lot.
نحن لن نستعجل سننتظر يحصل هذا بعد 5 سنوات.
We will not rush to say that indeed Euphrates has dried up, but we will wait for the next few years to see what's going to happen next.
ولكننا سنحذر الأجيال إن لم ندرك نحن ذلك الزمان إذا حصل هذا في زمنكم فلا تذهبوا إلى العراق لا ترون أنكم تأخذوا نصيبكم من الذهب فسيقع هناك قتل ودم ولا توجد أي فائدة.
But what we will do is that we will warn every single generation on what will happen in Iraq. That if there is a mountain of gold will come up from the Euphrates, then you should not go because it will only creates bloodshed.
نحن في جزيرة العرب كذلك ننتظر أمرا قبل القيامة.
The same goes to us in the Arab countries. We are waiting for something on the signs of the end of time.
وهي أن جزيرة العرب القاحلة الجرداء ستتحول إلى أنهارا ومروجا خضراء.
Just as how our prophet, just as how was told to us that the desert Arab countries will turn into green countries and there will be rivers flowing into the countries.
هكذا أخبرنا نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم قبل 1400 سنة أن هذا سيحصل.
This is what mentioned to us by our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam on what will happen in the Arab countries before 1400 years.
أجيال المسلمين الماضية لم تتسرع بإنكار هذا الأمر، ولكنهم سيقولون سيحصل في المستقبل.
The people before us, they did not deny on what will happen in the future, but they always tell people and they are waiting for what's going to happen.
في عصرنا هذا بدأ الأمر يظهر.
In our times, we can see that these signs are coming up.
وبدأ مناخ الجزيرة العربية يتغير.
And we can see that the Arab countries, they are changing.
وبدأت الأمطار تهطل.
And we can see that rains are falling down to the Arab
بدأت
countries.
المنخفضات الجوية تتحول ناحية الجزيرة العربية تنذر بهطول أمطار كثيرة وكبيرة جدا.
The humidity in Arab countries are changing and it's showing that there will be a lot of rain will come out soon.
بعض الوديان في الجزيرة العربية منذ مئات السنين لم تصل فيها السيول، الآن في السنوات الأخيرة بدأت تسير فيها السيول بعد هذه التغيرات الفضائية في الفضاء.
In some Arab countries we can see that in some valleys for hundreds of years there has not been any kind of river or there has not been any kind of flood, but towards the end of time now we can see that in some of the valleys we can see rivers flowing in some of the Arab countries.
ونحن ننتظر أيضا شيئا كونيا عظيما، لكن هذا بعد سيدنا عيسى.
And we are also waiting for some great change in the world, but this only happens after the descension of Jesus.
وهو طلوع الشمس من مغربها.
Which is that the sun will rise from the west.
وهذا أمر غريب، ولكن وكالة ناسا الأمريكية للفضاء ذكرت أن هذا متوقع في المستقبل.
This is something which is very strange, but as we can know, there are some people in the America, they have mentioned that this thing it is possible to happen in the future.
ونشرت وكالة الفضاء الأمريكية هذه أن الكواكب المحيطة بالشمس فيها خلل في دورانها، وأنها ستعكس دورانها، وأن هذه الظاهرة ستصل إلى كوكب الأرض. وهذا قبل 5 سنوات أو أقل منذ نشرته وكالة ناسا الأمريكية.
And they say that the Earth, the orbit of the Earth, there's something wrong with the orbit of the Earth, and it is possible that one day it will happen up to an extent that the sun will rise from the west. And this is by those people who are in the astronomy field in the America.
هذا الخلل إذا شاهده أهل الأرض هو إيذان بانتهاء الحياة على كوكب الأرض والحياة في السماء مع الأنبياء، مع سيدنا عيسى والنبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، في الحياة التي لا توجد فيها هموم ولا أمراض ولا مشاكل ولا غموم، حياة السعادة المطلقة.
And when this happens, it is actually the ending of the good life of the people when they want to live in peace and security. This will be the end of all kind of goodness after it was brought by Jesus.
حياة الأبد.
حياة الأبد يعني هذا بداية حياة الأبد.
حياة الأبد يعني حياة الجنة، حياة الأبد خالدين فيها أبدا.
It will be the beginning of the eternal life, which is the paradise.
يعيش الواحد منعما آلاف السنين مقابل صبره في هذه الحياة على الظلم، عمل الخير، امتثال لأوامر الله، اتباع الأنبياء.
He will live forever in happiness and tranquility after being patient a little while on the face of earth with the oppressions which they have to face.
الأنبياء كلهم على طريقة واحدة.
All prophets, they are moving towards one direction.
لكن أحيانا السياسات تجعل الأنبياء كأنهم متخالفين، ولا الأنبياء كلهم منهج واحد، كلهم أهل خير ورحمة وسلام.
But politics are the one which changes the understanding of the prophets to different ways. Otherwise, we can know that the prophets, they are always going into one single direction.
فنسأل الله أن يجمعنا جميعا في الجنة التي نؤمن بها فوق السماء السابعة.
and we ask Allah that He will grant us together to live in the paradise above the seventh heaven.
وأن يميتنا على التوحيد والإسلام.
And that He will let us die in correct belief to God and also in Islam.
وأن يجعلنا وإياكم مفاتيح للخير.
And we ask God that He make all of us as the key towards goodness.
مباركين حيثما كنا وأينما كنا.
Blessed wherever we go.
كما قال سيدنا عيسى.
Just as how Jesus has said.
دعا سيدنا عيسى قال وجعلني مباركا أينما كنت.
Just as how Jesus has said, "Oh God, make me blessed wherever I go."
آمين يا رب العالمين.
Please forgive me for a little bit not so good translation.
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. I think we would agree that Habib is a very animated speaker, and I think you would wish that you know Arabic. Okay, without further ado, the last session for today, I'm afraid I have to shift the mic to our moderator. It's too heavy for me. Habib Abdul Rahman. He delved, just a short bio about him, he delved into the field of Islamic da'wah around 20 years ago and has been active in efforts to renew the spirit of knowledge, books and remembrance and the way of life of the Imam al-Haddad and his predecessors. He has been under the tutelage of many scholars in Saudi Arabia and Yemen, and he is now leading the organization called Pertubuhan Amanah Hawi Al-Khairat Malaysia Hub, and operates a small publishing house focusing on da'wah. Without further ado, I'll pass the mic to him.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, good afternoon, everybody. I am like a small speck of star compared to big ones on my left and on my right. So I really feel special and privileged to be here today in front of these two distinguished gentlemen who has delved into the field of religion very deeply and very highly qualified and eloquent speaker. And I must say that presentation by the Honorable Reverend is really impressive. So my job today as a moderator is two things. One is to lead the continuing discussion and presentation by each of these two honorable and distinguished gentlemen to be more elaborative in the topic that we're talking about. The other one is to determine or to try and guide us at the end of the session, what is the expectation, our expectation when we leave this place. That's my job today. It sounds like quite straightforward, but it's not. So I'm gonna pose some questions to each of these gentlemen and give them 15 minutes to elaborate on these questions, and then that will enlighten further on what they have opened the topic about. The topic is Armageddon, and both faith believe in many similarities on the coming of the Armageddon, and that we all should know about it and be prepared for it. And as I said, this session is not a debate. I must make this clear so some people may be disappointed. It is not a debate. It is a knowledge session for us to understand two different faith perspective on the same issue, which Armageddon. So I will start with the Honorable Reverend. I'm very interested in the presentation. I think I'm very also being impressed. You have separated the issue of Armageddon into 4 aspects: the chronos, but I'm more interested. I would like you to elaborate from the Christian perspective. What is from the individual one, what is the third one in your presentation? I think, you see, if we give him enough time, we'll be here till tomorrow morning. He's got a lot to talk about, and that's why I think we have picked the right speaker to speak from the religion of Christian perspective. But there are 4 views on in time, the
third one.
There you go. The chronos, the kairos, the ekstasios, and the ion. I think and then in the end, you tell us that the Christian we advise Christians, and we take the same advice, which is to discern and decide. So now we are all individuals in this world. We are listening from the Christian perspective. How among these four aspects of eschatology, and the end is near, as we know it's near, what is the role, responsibility, rights, and action in terms of action and belief that each individual should prepare when they know that the end of time is imminent? Then, I believe, then they can discern and decide. Right? So can you take 15 minutes to talk about the eschatology, the closure, and how should a Christian prepare himself should the end of time come tomorrow? Thank you.
Thank you.
May I add a little bit? The Reverend did not touch the Christian approach to Antichrist, whereas Habib did. So if that can be included in the...
Okay, I will try. And the Antichrist is a big topic. Maybe I'll go the other way around. Maybe start with the Antichrist first. That might be useful. Throughout history, the Christian history, we have actually named quite a few Antichrists. I come from the Lutheran Church. All right, my founder, Martin Luther, once upon a time, actually named the Pope as the Antichrist. Now, today, I would probably not say the same thing about Pope Francis, not only because I have very good friends who are Catholics, but, and so in other words, what I'm trying to say is that there are different people in history that might be quick to name Antichrist, or they have their reasons to do so. Of course, the Pope and the Holy Roman Catholic Church during the 15th, 16th century had much corruption in there. So there was a right use of the word to some extent. When I was listening to my honorable speaker from Yemen, my brother there, it was interesting because what came to my mind was Adolf Hitler. Now, I was in Germany a couple of years, some years ago, and I've actually been to a concentration camp, not as a prisoner, but as a tourist, and I was struck by the immense power that Adolf Hitler had during World War II on the minds of not only secular people, but also Christians, in order to do what he wanted to do. And he also presented himself as good. He was presenting a vision for his nation, a vision that is very ethno-religio-centric, that is very focused on the Aryan race. And people bought it. People were very intelligent, professors. They actually, it would be probably the climax of Western civilization, the German universities. And that is a challenge. When I stood there in the concentration camp, thinking about what a human being could do at the height of his power to kill so many people, I mean, to some extent, that behavior is a very anti-Christ-like behavior. It's a challenge. Now, I'm cautious about speculation, who is the Antichrist. As long as it's not me, I must be cautious about that. But this maybe goes back to the question is what is the role and responsibility of, and I like the theme of knowledge. I think that's important. The first thing I think is important is to be able to equip ourselves with not only the knowledge of our own scriptures, but also the knowledge of history. And history is important, and I've referred to it a few times, because history will help us see not only the chronos, but the different kairotic moments. At the end, actually, I showed a picture of Mother Teresa. So Mother Teresa, even though you may see her more as a person of charity, but she was also a person who had a vision of what Jesus expected of her that I elaborated in Matthew chapter 25. Helping the hungry, the sick, the poor. Those who totally were abandoned in society in Calcutta. One of the most moving funerals I've ever seen. There were two actually, but that happened on the same day. But the most moving funeral was Mother Teresa's national funeral. It was on TV years ago. It was about the same time with Princess Diana, remember? And when Princess Diana, of course, everyone is, very star-like. And people were sad, of course, someone who died in an accident, sure. But when I saw many of the Hindus and also people of other faiths respecting Mother Teresa as a Christian, I said, this is the kind of Christian I want to be. Because she is following the way of Jesus. She is following the will of God in practice. So, what are the roles and responsibilities, action, and when we prepare, one, of course, is to equip ourselves with the knowledge to know how to interpret our scriptures. Because many people, it's very easy to pick a few ideas from maybe some verses, they mix it with an ideology, and they go to war. Christians do it, now even some Buddhists do it in Myanmar, right? It was shocking to know that there are these issues of the Rohingya, for example. So it's very easy for religious people to not have knowledge and just go with our own passions, our anger. I was a bit provocative with the last blessing because that kind of anger is not just an anger to act impulsively. But that anger that I'm proposing is an anger that's a righteous anger that is meant to move us to act with compassion and to also act with knowledge and love. And love is a word that is so, I mean, you switch on the radio, everybody sings about love. I'm not sure what we mean. But for me, love is an action. And as a Christian, I'm in a season of Lent right now preparing for Good Friday. Of course, we Christians believe Jesus was crucified and we believe He's resurrected. And we also have a part that talks about Jesus' ascension, where He calls us to be witnesses, calls us to da'wah, in a sense, be a witness to those around us of His message. And this is a season that I find myself preparing. And I go back to understand His words, how it should be interpreted. And I need to act. And I'm also fasting, maybe not like Ramadan, the full thing, but I also fast. I also want to give alms to the poor. So these are practical things, building knowledge, practical actions of compassion, and also for me is to address hatred in this world, because it's easy to hate somebody you don't know. It's easy to have a fight on Facebook and just comment with each other. But when we see each other's eyes, when we're able to look into each other's face, in fact, one of the French philosophers, Emmanuel Levinas, said that we become who we are when we're in the face of the other. It's the other that shapes who we are. And I think that's the reason why God created Adam and Eve, so that it is not good for man to be alone. And why the last vision in Revelation is about a new heaven and a new earth, where different cultures, different ethnicities can come together. Now I believe that some of that can be experienced here and now. We don't need to wait until the end. The end gives us a vision of what we can do now. And we know that there are opportunities around us. So as a Christian, I will support any acts of solidarity with the poor, with the oppressed. Of course, I don't achieve it 100% all the time. I'm before more holier people sitting next to me, who probably has done more, and maybe you have done more than me. But this is my commitment as a Christian, and I do it because of my experience of God through Jesus Christ and His message, so that there will be, the end here is about purpose. There's a hope. And this eternity is a vision of what the world should be. And I like the ideas of the animals are included. Creation. We take care of creation. We don't simply hurt this creation that God has given us. Because we will have a new heaven and a new earth. So something from here continues to the end. Even though some things don't continue. Our bodies will be different, the Bible says. We will have resurrected bodies. So we are not just some spirits floating in the air, but we will have bodies. We will eat. We will have. It's a different kind of existence. It's a spiritual existence, you may say, but it is experienced a little bit here now. And Jesus, that's what He's trying to say. You know, what you do to these least, you do it to me. That motivates me, and that will probably be what I would encourage you to think about is eschatology, or this end time, will shape how we act to the person next to us. And in the case of Christians, we are challenged by Jesus not only to love our neighbors, but to love our enemies. Now, that's a hard one. That's a hard one. So I would need your prayer that I can love my enemies too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a saying where Prophet Muhammad said that a man came to him and asked him when is the end of time, and he responded by saying that the person who asked, the person who's being asked knows less than the person who's asking, which means nobody knows except God. And another person asked him, and he asked, but how have you prepared for it? The question we're asking ourselves is that we all believe that Armageddon is coming, but how do we prepare for it? How do we prepare for it? And one he also mentioned in one hadith, on one of the traditions, that if a person is planting a seed and tomorrow is the end of time, he should continue planting it. So everything, his life, his faith, his actions should continue regardless of the presence of time. I think what he's saying is that the kingdom is after, I believe in the belief of Islam is a bit after the Armageddon, or just before Armageddon, after the descension of Jesus. Thank you very much, Reverend. Now I want to pose a question to you and give you 15 minutes to speak about. You mentioned about Habib. No, I want you to understand the question. So let me translate, one person translate. I don't have to translate to so many people. So the question is, when Jesus comes down and destroy the Antichrist and bring system to the new kingdom, as the Christians say, and there will be peace and there will be love among everybody, and Jesus will bring us back to what the world should be. But my question is that what we learn from the Greek word religio, which means religion, which is meant to bind together. Religion is from the Greek word called binding people together. So when Jesus come down, my question is, what does he use? What madhab, or what faith, what does he use to bind people together after he destroy the Antichrist? Whose religion is he bringing? Because we believe that Prophet is the last, or Muhammad is the last prophet, and he is the last religion. So when Jesus come down, is he going to apply the scripture has been brought to us today, or is he going to apply the faith of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Is there? Maybe it takes some time to elaborate this stuff. Okay, I think that.
بسم الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. سيدنا عيسى عندما ينزل، سيدنا عيسى شخصية عالمية، ليس خاصا بالمسلمين ولا خاصا بالنصارى ولا خاصا باليهود، شخصية عالمية الكل سيجتمع عليها.
Jesus is an international figure. He does not only belong to the Muslims, or he does not only belongs to the Christians or to the Jews. He belongs to everyone.
وسيصحح الأخطاء إن كانت هناك أخطاء عند المسلمين أو اختلافات سيصححها وسيرفعها.
If there is any mistakes or wrong understanding in the Muslims, he will correct it.
وكل مسلم يعني من المسلمين الأخيار الطيبين سيتبع سيدنا عيسى ولن يتعصب ولن يتشدد.
And there is no righteous Muslim except that he will definitely follow Jesus.
لأن سيعلم أن سيدنا عيسى علمه ومواهبه أعلى منه، فهو الشخصية المرجوع إليها.
Because he knows that the knowledge of Jesus Jesus, and the rank of Jesus is much greater than them, so they will definitely follow Jesus.
وكذلك سيحل الاختلافات الموجودة عند أهل الكتاب عند النصارى.
Then at the same time, he will also solve the problem, the differences amongst the Christians themselves.
سيبين لهم سيدنا عيسى من شخصيته الحقيقية.
He will tell them who is he, the real he, Jesus.
وسيبين لهم سيدنا عيسى من أمه الحقيقية وكيف ولادته وكيف حياته وكيف تعرض للفترات.
And he will explain to them on the way he was born and who is his real mother and at the time where he was living.
وستظهر للناس البشارات التي كان سيدنا عيسى في بعض المواضع من الإنجيل في بعض الكتب، كيف سيدنا عيسى بشر الناس أنه سيأتي نبي آخر مكمل لسلسلة الأنبياء التي أولها آدم وآخرها محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وهم سلسلة الأنبياء موسى وداود إبراهيم مكملها النبي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.
At the same time, Jesus will come and explain to everyone that who is the seal of all prophets, as how it's mentioned in the Bible, that there will be a prophet who will come as a seal of the prophets. He will come and explain to them on the chain which every single prophet has brought down, and who are the one who seal, which we say that it was Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
حتى لو تجد في الإنجيل يعني خطابات سيدنا عيسى لطائفة محددة لجماعة محددة، ولكن النبي مكمل لتلك الديانات، خطابه عالميا للكل. وهذا حصل للتقارب الآن بسبب وسائل الاتصالات الحديثة في زمن سيدنا عيسى وزمن سيدنا موسى، كيف سيتواصل مع الشرق الأقصى مع الشرق الأدنى مع البلاد البعيدة، فكل نبي في منطقة محددة. نبينا صلى الله عليه وسلم صار رسولا للأمة كلها، للبشر كلهم.
And as we can see that Jesus, when he speaks in the Bible, he speaks to a particular kind of group, because God has sent him to a particular kind of group, to a group of people, that for him to speak to them. It is different from our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because of the possibility, because of the means that we have, that people are able to connect themselves with the whole world. He is sent as a prophet, as a seal of prophet, for the whole world, for all mankind.
وعندما يعود سيدنا عيسى سيجد دينا، سيد الناس يمشون على دين وعلى منهج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم، وهو يأتي لن يلغي هذا المنهج ولن يعني يحارب هذا المنهج.
And when Jesus comes down, he will find that people will walk according to their religions, and we will see that Jesus, he won't cancel or he won't deny those religions, but he will direct people to the right direction.
بدليل أنه عندما ينزل سيجد إمام المسلمين، فهو سيصلي خلف إمام المسلمين مع مرتبته أعلى من هذا الإمام، هو نبي يرى الملائكة ونبي يعني شيء عظيم، ولكن مع ذلك سيصلي خلف شخص آخر عادي، شخص إمام من أئمة المسلمين.
And as we can see that what we believe is that Jesus, when he comes down, he will pray behind one of the figure or the imam of the Muslims. At the same time, we know that Jesus is greater than this man, because he is a prophet, and this man, he's just a normal man who's from the nation of our prophet, but Jesus, he will pray behind that man.
وهذه طمأنة المسلمين أننا لن ألغي دينكم، أنا اتبع لهذا الدين الذي جابه محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، لأنه خاتم الأديان ومجدد ما سبق من الأديان.
And this will bring tranquility to the Muslims, because Jesus, he will come and he will not cancel or deny their religion. He is coming here to complete, or he is coming to go according to the religion which has brought by your prophet.
تطور حركة البشر، الشرع في سيدنا موسى كانت شريعة لسيدنا موسى والأنبياء من بعده، لكن حركة الناس تتطور وتتقدم، فكل بعد فترة يرسل الله رسول تعليماته أحكامه تناسب حركة الناس وتطورهم وحاجتهم.
Because people improves and they get better according to the time which they live in. When Jesus was sent to his people, it's for his people and it's suitable for his time. And when the religion of our prophet came to place, it is for the people of our time, because it suits the people of our time.
فلذلك هم الأنبياء متفقون على الأصول والثوابت.
That is why we can see that these religions, they agree to each other on their theologies.
لكن تغيير العبادات والفروع بما يناسب حاجة الناس، والتشريعات بما يناسب حاجة الناس وحاجة البيئة وحاجة الشعوب.
But the laws of the religion, it changes according to the needs of the people and the time and the tribes.
فسيدنا عيسى كما نعتقد المسلمون سينزل بهدي النبي المصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، مجددا لهدي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ويشرب الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم لدين النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم.
As what we believe, Jesus when he descends, he will renew, he will revive the religion of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
وطبعا ستتفق عليه الأمم الطيبون والأخيار من المسلمين سيتبعونه، وبعض قد لا يصدق حتى أنه سيدنا عيسى، وكذلك من النصارى سيتبعونه ويؤمنونه، وكذلك من اليهود، وكذلك حتى من اللادينيين عندما يرون هذه الشخصية الكاملة ويعرفون الحق في خطابه وفي كلامه وفي حججه وفي براهينه.
And we can see that the righteous people from the Muslims, they will follow the Jesus, and the same thing. We know that the Christians, they themselves will follow the Jesus. The Jews, they will follow the Christians. Even some people who are atheists, which they claim themselves with no religion, they will follow Jesus as well.
وسيجمع الناس على التعليمات الإلهية الربانية الملآنة بالرحمة والشفقة للعباد التي تشوهت في هذا الزمان، وظنوا أن التعليمات الربانية شاقة وصعبة وهي فيها السعادة وفيها الكمال والخير لهم.
And he will gather everyone to follow the merciful teachings of God, which brings people unity and will correct the wrong understanding which people have, who thinks that religion is something which is difficult for people, or religion is a tool for them to use for some benefit from their worldly benefits.
سيظهر حقيقتها سيدنا عيسى.
The reality of religions will be brought up by Jesus.
وسيرفع الخلافات والاختلافات والكل مرجعها إليه. كل مسلم أو نصراني أو يهودي أو غير ذلك ممن يمتلك الإنصاف سيعرف أن هذه الشخصية التي يحق أن تقود العالم بالأمان واطمئنان والسعادة، والذي يرفع حتى العداوة من الحيوان وليس من الإنسان فقط.
And all kind of differences amongst people will be removed by Jesus, and everyone will take him as a leader. The Muslims, the Christians, the Jews, all of them. As what we know, Jesus will come with the right teachings which unite people, and he does not only remove enmity in people, he will also remove enmity amongst animals.
وسيخبرهم هو كذلك أيضا عن النعيم الذي رآه في الملكوت الأعلى.
And he will also even inform people on the kind of blessings or rewards which he could see in the heavens.
وسيخبر الناس عن حقيقة النبي المصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم التي تشوهت أيضا في الأفكار بسبب الإعلام وبسبب الحوادث والحروب.
And he will also explain on the reality of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is distorted by the medias because of some wars happen amongst people.
لأنه لما يتكلم دكتور عن مهنة الطب هذا اختصاصي شغله وعمله، عندما يتكلم مهندس عن الكمبيوتر أو عن هو اختصاصه، فكذلك عندما يتكلم سيدنا عيسى عن النبوة والأنبياء هذه وظيفته وهذا اختصاصه، ما هي شؤون النبوة وأخبار الأنبياء.
Because when we see doctors, they will speak about medicines. When we see engineers, they will speak about engineering. When we see, and the same goes to Jesus. This is his specialty, this is his field, because he's a prophet and he is the one who is able to inform and to make it clear what are prophets.
وسيستجيب له العالم كله.
And the whole world will follow, will accept the teachings of Jesus.
إلا الأشرار الذين لا يريدون الخير ولا السعادة ولا الرحمة للناس.
Except for bad people who doesn't want goodness for people or doesn't want happiness for others.
فهؤلاء في كل زمان وفي كل مكان نعوذ بالله من
These
شرورهم.
bad people, they are always in every time and everywhere. We ask Allah protection from those bad people.
ونسأل الله أن يجعلنا جميعا من الأخيار.
And we ask Allah that to make us amongst good people.
المحبين للأنبياء.
Those people who love the prophets.
المرافقين للأنبياء.
And those people who follows the way of the prophets.
آمين يا رب العالمين.
We thank Habib Kadzim for his detailed explanation on the faith at the end of time. Okay, now we would like to open the floor to questions, but we have a limit. We have 20 minutes before we close the session. So whoever raises up the hands first will probably get entertained first. All right. Now the gentleman, the very nice white hair and beard.
I heard some, I do not know whether it's a reverend or someone, but he did say that Christians or he thinks the Antichrist is a person called Mahdi. Have you heard about this?
Straight answer is no.
No.
Coming from a Christian.
Yes.
No, I haven't heard. Maybe.
Is there any kind of information about this Mahdi in the Bible or in the Christian world?
Yeah, I probably need a bit more background to understand where the question is coming from. But at least for that direct reference, it is. I mean, the Christians have many different people teaching nowadays. You know, some of them more, if I may use the word, slightly more deviant than others, or at least more out of the main orthodox teachings. So this is actually the first time maybe I've heard a Malaysian pastor say that.
No, it's someone in America.
Oh, usually Malaysians are more careful. But then maybe I'll check it out. Check it out.
Okay. Actually, Mahdi, we believe that Mahdi is a man who will come before the Jesus, and he will bring peace. He will bring peace and security to the earth before Jesus comes, and Jesus will take over Mahdi.
Okay.
That is what we believe. Mahdi comes first, then Jesus second, and then the Antichrist comes after Jesus. There's just a rough idea about what he's speaking about Mahdi.
But that's interesting because for the first coming of Jesus, there is. Yeah. But of course,
Mahdi comes first, then Jesus.
There's a slight disagreement here. But never mind. I think what is important is that there is the idea of, in the first coming,
Yes, sorry, let me just correct. Mahdi, Antichrist, then Jesus.
Mahdi, I'm not careful, I'm not Mahdi, yeah? Sorry, I'm a good friend with Mavina, so I'll be very careful with that. We can invite him for another session. But let me go back to there is this notion of, in the first century, they were looking for Elijah, the prophet Elijah, someone like Elijah that comes before the Messiah. And Jesus referred to this person who is like Elijah as John the Baptist, his cousin. So there is this idea of someone being a forerunner of Jesus the Messiah in the first coming. That's very clear. As for the focus for Christians is for believers who are committed to His way to become the kind of community. So it's a community. Something like a ummah, you know? It's a community that becomes people who are prepared. That's his idea of alert, being alert. So that notion is there, but as for individuals, I'm more cautious about timelines because Jesus already very clearly said, there will be many who come and they will deceive. So we are called to always be on our guard. But why is that so? Because we are people who are easily misled by sweet-sounding talks of people who usually is for their own personal interest, whether it's Adolf Hitler or whoever today. In history, we have different empires, right from the Roman Empire. Before that, you had the Persian Empire. You had the other empires, so until the Egyptian Empire, and we'll come to the east. We have the Chinese Empire, who thinks that there's only one middle kingdom, which is China. Right? Then you have our own empires, Mahajapahit, Sriwijaya, our own Malaccan empires, so on and so forth. There are always this mixture of the good and bad in these empires, and usually a bit more bad when there's power, corrupted power involved. So I think these warnings are there, but I will stop short of speculating.
Thank you. Can we have another question, please?
One at the back.
Yes, the sister over there with the glasses.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. First time I'm being identified as someone, sister with the glasses. Thank you for the opportunity to ask the question. Actually, I had two, but they are interrelated. The first question that I had through the course of our conversation is that, as I understood it, we, the speakers, understand the time is in a linear perspective, meaning that we are moving from the point A to point B, and it's developing, and nothing repeats at the same time. But to me it's a bit anthropocentric, because if we see the God as an almighty entity, there should be another perspective. So probably the God is seeing this all as everything is happening at the same time, simultaneously. The whole history is just incomprehensible for us. Where is the limit? Does it have an end or not? And if we take up this perspective as everything happening at the same time, simultaneously, and depending only on our choices, how does it change our perspective of eschatology as we used to see it? And the other question I had, that it also comes from a bit, I think, the fault of anthropocentric perception of ours. Here we talked about the signs of the end of the world, like the Honorable Sheikh mentioned about the drying up of Euphrates as a sign of the end of the world. But again, it's anthropocentric and earth-centric. Do we perceive the world as an earth? Do we perceive the world as populated only by humans? And why then the drying up of the Euphrates and these earthly signs should mean the end of the whole world? And if it does, then should we perceive a scripture as just something giving us a clue and not something which we should rely on at the end as the single source of the truth? But anyway, probably there should be the other signs, not so earthly and not so anthropocentric. I'm not sure which. Maybe if we look at it deeper, like in Hindu eschatology, we're seeing it as a decadence, and at the same time appearance of more people who are trying to reflect on how they can help the world by helping themselves at the first place, by perfecting themselves, trying to help the world. If we're seeing it like this, but at the different times, people always had a sense of decadence as a decline. So for them, at the previous times, or the previous centuries, it probably also meant that they are seeing these signs, as we talked about, let's say Matthew 24, chapter 24, and in different centuries, people also used to see and to sense this decadence. So what signs should be here for us to give us this feeling? Because I think that it's not enough. Some earthly, some anthropocentric signs. What should it be? Thank you, and sorry for the...
The first question is directed to the Honorable Referent, and the second one is addressed to the Sheikh Kadzim, inshallah.
All right, sure. I think the linear side of things is unavoidable, because none of us have a God's point of view. I mean, that is just talking philosophically. After the Enlightenment, that is no more. Because in the Enlightenment in the 17th, 18th century, even in the West, they also wanted to have a God's point of view, but this has been challenged. Right? But having said that, I think the point of anthropocentricity is a very valid point, means man-centered or human-centered. On one hand, I appreciate your reminder that we need to see things from God's point of view. And I think that's what Jesus was trying to do in Matthew 20:25, is that from the point of view of God, what is really important is whether you take care of the hungry, you feed the hungry, give water to the thirsty, etc. Those are symbolic in a way that points towards those who are most rejected in society. It's still more human-centered, but Revelation helps us to see things more creation from a bigger point of view, where you look at creation. But that's one side of it. But in recent times, some of the scientists actually have coined that our era is called the age of Anthropocene. This has been a discussion, and they're still debating whether we'll call this the age of Anthropocene. What does this mean? The age of Anthropocene means that we human beings are the number one threat to our Earth. So that's their debate, the scientists. And what is interesting for me is that we usually think eschatology is a debate amongst theologians. But right now, those who are talking about climate change, those who are talking about some of these problems that are happening, so-called natural disasters, some of them are actually debating to what extent we humans are a direct cause to this, whether it's the way we use fuel, or the way we are developing, that dishonors in many ways the value of creation. So this is interesting because suddenly, as theologians talking about the end times, you'll be surprised to look at scientists who actually talk about the same thing, but with different language. So they use the word anthropocene to try to describe that, and that is somewhat interesting for me. We have an overlap. But I think the point of getting a different perspective, a God perspective, is important, but we are cautious. Why? Because if two people come to me and say that I have a God perspective, or let's say Justin, he's my friend, and he looks more Chinese right now with his red shirt, and he has God's perspective, I have God's perspective, but those people disagree, and that goes back to Mustafa's thing. Different believers have strong disagreements. And the problem is sometimes when we move to the next step and become violent towards each other and not allow, even I don't allow Justin to speak, he doesn't allow me to speak, that becomes a problem when actually it is still a man-centered, and usually it's man, not even woman, man, human-centered perspective. So our perspective is always limited, I would say, but it does not mean that we cannot be challenged by an outside perspective that could be a God perspective, and we look at knowledge, and of course the scriptures will help us. But some Christians, especially the liberation theologians, say that the perspective of the people in the underside, the poor, the victims, the oppressed, often will help you see the world in a different way. And I suspect that Jesus is pushing us towards to say, how do you really know God's perspective? Is it possible that you may see it in the victim? Because the victim is able to experience the negative consequences of many of our actions here on earth today, whether it is greed, capitalism, whatever you want to say. So I think that is just some thoughts to maybe stir us to think that we are trying to have a God's perspective, and we look to religion for that. But there's also a danger that man likes to use religion, and then they claim it to be God's perspective, but actually it's not. And Jesus is calling us to be discerning towards that. So those are just some thoughts. I don't think I answered fully, but we could continue another time. Pass it.
The question is on whether we are human-centered in terms of our perspective. Islam, am I correct?
It was more specific about the science of the end of the world.
Science of the end of the world, okay. And we are in this, you mentioned the decadence.
Yeah, I mentioned that in each time people were perceiving the situation around them as a state of decadence, and probably the end of the world coming soon. Shouldn't we reflect more on this perception of science? Because the Sheikh mentioned the drying up of the Euphrates, isn't it so much anthropocentric, and should there be other signs of that?
نعم هناك يعني علامات كثيرة لقيام الساعة.
There are many other signs for the end of times.
علامات صغرى وعلامات وسطى وعلامات كبرى.
There are small signs, there are intermediate signs, and there are also greater signs.
نحن كما ذكرنا واتفق مع الأخ تكلم سابقا، نحن الآن في العلامات الوسطى.
As how we have spoke with the brother, we agree that we are now in the intermediate signs.
وهي لها مظاهر كثيرة جدا.
And there are many signs we can see.
حتى من مظاهرها يعني سرعة مرور الوقت.
The physical signs that we can see is one of them is like the fast moving of time.
وهذا أيضا يعني أثبتته وكالة ناسا الأمريكية للفضاء، كيف أن الزمان الآن تغير وصار الكرة الأرضية تسير بسرعة جدا، فبعض النظريات تعزيه إلى الزلزال البحري وبعضهم يعزونه إلى إلى ثقب الأوزون، يعني عدة أسباب، ولكنه هو موجود وهو علامة نعتبرها من العلامات.
And this is proven by the astronomers in the States about the fast moving of time. Some of them says it also affects the movement in the sea. Some of them also say one of the reasons is because of the holes in the ozone layers, and other than that. So these are actually we can see the similarity between as what the religion has said and also what science has mentioned.
هناك يعني من العلامات التي ظهرت في ال50 سنة الأخيرة اختلال برضو العلاقات بين الآباء والأمهات وبين الناس وكثرة الحروب ولم تكن معهودة.
And there are also some other signs which we could see from previous 50 years on the relationship of father or parents and children. And also some wars and also tribulations which we can see.
حتى حركة التجارة العالمية هذه أيضا تعتبر من العلامات إذا لم تكن موجودة من قبل.
Up to an extent that the global business or global trade which we can see it's happening now is one of the signs which was not there in the previous times.
يعني عندنا نحن نبينا صلى الله عليه وسلم أخبر عن بعض الغيوب التي ظهرت.
We know that our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam he has mentioned about some of the signs which was not there.
تكلم بها من قبل 1400 سنة.
He has mentioned about the signs which has already prevalent, which he has mentioned since 1400 years before.
حتى ظهور الأقلام في حديث عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول ويفشو القلم، يعني ينتشر القلم فصار يطبع بالمليارات، كل إنسان ممكن يحمل قلم، بينما كان في القرون الأولى الكتابة صعبة جدا.
One of the signs our Prophet has mentioned is that the spreading of pens, because those days it is not easy for people to own pen. Only some people might be able to write or read, but at this time we can see a lot of people they are holding a few pens with them.
ولكن العلامات التي عليها المدار والتي هي تشير إلى قرب القيامة هي العلامات الكبرى.
And one the signs that we are really waiting for or we are observing is the greater signs which indeed shows the coming near of end of times.
ومنها سيدنا عيسى بن مريم.
And some of those signs are the descension of Jesus.
ومنها خروج طائفة يقال لها ياجوج وماجوج.
And another sign is also the group of people which is called Gog and Magog.
وهي طائفة مغيبة عن الأنظار.
Okay. This is a group of people which which is unseen today.
يقال أنها تعيش تحت سطح الأرض.
And some of them say that they are living under the face of earth.
ويقال أنها تعيش وراء جبال القوقاز الشاهقة.
Some of them say that they are living in the Gogus Mountain, behind the Gogus Mountain.
يعيشون هناك ولا يرون بالأبصار.
They are living there, but they cannot be seen.
ولم تكتشفهم الأقمار الصناعية. الأقمار الصناعية.
And also the satellite could not see them.
فإذا جاء الوقت الذي يخرجون فيه يظهرون.
When the time which has been decreed for them to come out, then they will be seen.
وهم طوائف كثيرون جدا.
And there are many groups of them.
هذه واحدة من العلامات المذكورة عندنا في القرآن ولا كل مؤمن يعني يعتقدها، كل مسلم ومسلمة تعتقد هذا ويدرسون هذا.
This is one of the signs which is mentioned in the Quran, and every single Muslim believe in it.
هذه علامات كبرى يعني وقوعها يأذن بقرب الأمر.
And these are one of the greater signs which shows that the closeness of the end of time when such thing has happened.
كذلك يعتقد المسلمون آخر الزمان خروج دابة ستظهر من مكة من تحت جبل الصفا.
And the same time there will be also another sign which is the beast that will come out in Mecca, which is from the behind of the mountain named Mount Safa.
وتظهر فجأة وتختفي فجأة.
And he will come out of a sudden, and he will be unseen out of a sudden.
وتنقط على وجه كل مسلم فيمتلئ وجهه بالنور والبياض.
And he will go to every single faces of Muslims. Then he will put a dot, and then the face will turn white.
ولكن أقرب العلامات هي الاختلال الكوني في حركة الشمس.
And the closest signs is the movement of the heavens, the movement of the earth around the sun.
حادثة انحسار الفرات هذه حادثة كبيرة دلالة على قرب العلامات الكبرى.
one of the signs of Euphrates, when we mention about Euphrates, is about when such thing happen at Euphrates, it shows the closeness of what is going to happen at the end of time.
بعض الأشياء التي أخبر بها النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قد حصلت وانقضت.
Some of the signs which is mentioned by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has happened.
بعضها ننتظرها.
Some of them we are still waiting for it.
مثل التحول في جزيرة العرب ومثل انحسار الفرات.
Some is like the Arab countries changing to green and rivers, and some of them is also like the Euphrates.
مثل بعض الحروب التي وقعت في الجزيرة العربية وفي بعض البلاد ذكرها الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم أنها سيكون كذا وكذا وسيقع كذا وكذا.
And some of the wars that will happen in the Arab countries, which is mentioned by our Prophet, that it will happen like this specifically.
نسأل الله الاستعداد إن شاء الله.
We ask Allah that He will give us preparation for all those things.
وهذه العلامات عندما تذكر ليس للتخويف إنما هي للاستعداد.
These signs, when was mentioned by our Prophet, it is not to create fear in people. It is indeed to make people prepare for it.
عندما يمشي الإنسان في طريق فيجد له علامات، هنا مطب، هنا اتجه يمين، هنا سيكون كذا، يكون مستعدا. كذلك عندما تكون عندنا العلامات سيكون في المستقبل كذا، ثم سيكون كذا، يكون المسلم مستعدا ولا يفاجأ بحصول تلك الأشياء.
And just like when we walk on the road, we can see signages telling us that there will be harms, there will be turns. The same thing goes for us here. It is not to create fear in us, it is just to let us prepare for what is coming in the future.
That's quite a long answer. But I think that when you use the word decadence, there are certain things that we cannot control. But there are certain things that, like the Honorable Reverend said, that we must discern and decide. We can continue to do as good as we can on this earth, but we cannot stop the signs to occur to indicate that it's getting closer and closer. Sometimes we cannot decide the decadence, cannot control the decadence. I think we have to stop here because we have overshot the time. I think if you allow me to close, I will close the session by highlighting the fact that we are here today for the sake of knowledge. We are not in a debate, but we want to hear the perspective of two different religions on a common topic, which we believe is going to occur. So now we can go back and appreciate each view as we discern. And then we decide where we are doing with our life, where we want to go from here, how much can we do? How much can we try to do ourselves within our family and within the group that we work with? How well we want to, maybe like the Reverend said, live the new kingdom today. Don't wait for the new kingdom to come. It could be today. We can work on it today. Live in harmony, live in peace, live in respect of each other. I think it's up to us now. We discern and decide. So it's up to us now. We are not closing with the debate. We're saying, okay, there is no conclusion here. It's very important that we do not set out to establish a conclusion. What science is there? What science are not there? Who's right, who's wrong? No. We have heard, and we take that as knowledge for ourselves to go on in our life and plant that seed, even if the end of time is tomorrow. Okay. With that, I will pass it back to the MC.